What time is it? Game time!
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday opener here of the divisional round playoffs. In about less than 15 minutes, we're going to be having the Bills hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. It will be a rematch from Week 17, which was declared a no contest due to the unfortunate tragedy of Damar Hamlin, who collapsed on the field, a heart condition, had a heart attack. So far, doing much well. Returned to the Bills facility, I believe, this past week. Please continue to keep this guy and young man in your prayers, everybody. As the NFL world, we're all thinking about you, Damar, and your family, loved ones, and friends. Anyway, there's a game right now, as God believes, be brewed with a lot of emotion right here this afternoon, because here's the end of the deal. The Buffalo Bills did finish out the season 13-3. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, on the other hand, for this season, finished out the season for this year at 12-4. And pretty legit argument could be made, because what ended up happening was the Kansas City Chiefs, who were the biggest beneficiaries of the unfortunate controversy where they had to reschedule things. And there was a debate going into that final weekend before any of the games were played that the way the NFL was proposing, which they got pretty much approved, if either of these three teams were to meet in the AFC Championship game, it would be a neutral setting. Well, due to the game being declared a no contest, the Cincinnati Bengals were awarded the AFC North, and hence what ended up happening, since they were still a game out going into that Monday night game, the Bills would finish out the season 13-3, and once again, the Cincinnati Bengals 12-5, both winners of the division. But unfortunately, as a result, due to the Kansas City Chiefs being the Vegas Raiders on the road in the final week, they were able to take opportunity to be the huge beneficiaries of clinching the first round bye. And the Kansas City Chiefs, right now 14-3, they took care of the Jacksonville Jaguars 27-20 in that game. That was a close game, but a lot of the storylines, you can imagine, the focus is going to be on Patrick Mahomes and his ankle. So right now, either of these teams, they're going to be facing a neutral site, and I believe one of the settings that was mentioned was Lucas Oil Stadium, the home of the Indianapolis Colts. We'll get ready to stay tuned for that. But in the meanwhile, right now, this will be taking place in Buffalo at Highmark Stadium. And Damar Hamlin, like I said, still on the road to significant recovery. Let's continue to root for this young man. But anyway, here's what's going to need to happen. I'm going to have to keep this one a little bit short because you're already close to game time. This will be more particularly relying on Josh Allen. I mean, right now. Josh Allen, who actually leads the league in 5 turnovers in the red zone this year with 5. That's been one of the Bills' biggest downfalls as of late. And if you think about it, too, I mean, prior to having his throwing elbow hurt before he got into the Jets, he had 19 touchdowns and 8 interceptions through the New York Jets game. Since then, 16 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Not that much of a drop-off right there. I mean, pretty much similar. The touchdown pass went a little. The interceptions just about the same, just one notch below. But here's the thing, too. One of the things, too, when people looked at last week's game, this was an article according to Athletic, Josh Allen may be forced into underneath throws based on the way the Bengals blitz. The Dolphins went for the high-risk, high-reward coverage, baiting him into deep throws where he had 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's been one of the biggest concerns about the Buffalo Bills franchise. Whenever you look at them and why they've struggled historically, especially back in the days under Marv Levy and Jim Kelly's K-Gun offense, what was one of the biggest things of the Buffalo Bills that cost themselves like Super Bowl championships? It was their turnover ratio and the way they were sloppy with turning over the ball. Jimmy Johnson would highlight that multiple times on the Buffalo Bills right there, because when you look at it right there, I mean, for them, I mean, let's take a look at it. I mean, their best year was probably their first opportunity where they had the New York Giants on the ropes right there. It was a back-and-forth game. They lost that game by a point. I mean, that year, they were +2 in turnover ratio. And then you look at the next 3 seasons after that, I mean, what ended up happening, like most of the Super Bowl games were not even close. They lost at 13 points to the then Washington Redskins in Super Bowl 26. I mean, and that year too, right there, they were minus 11 in turnover ratio. 1992, when they went back to face the Dallas Cowboys, minus 14 in turnover ratio. And then their final Super Bowl season to date, which was Super Bowl 28 and the rematch versus the Cowboys, has a chance to possibly be a trilogy this season. Look at it right there. They were minus 22 in oh, excuse me. Let me take that back. Excuse me, I'm misreading. I'm looking at the ratings. Let me start over again. Sorry about that, everybody. But when you look at it right here, like I said, back in 91, they were +2 in turnover ratio right there. 92, they were -3 in turnover ratio. And then their final Super Bowl year, they were +12, but their ugliest one was their third Super Bowl appearance versus Dallas Cowboys. And that game where they lost to the Dallas Cowboys in that contest, in that Super Bowl, 9 turnovers that were forced by the Dallas Cowboys defense right there, in which they saw Jim Kelly knocked out of the game. And I believe it was probably the end of the second or the beginning of the third quarter right there. You saw as a result, the guy who led the comeback versus the Orioles, the highest playoff comeback to date, 32 points, Frank Reich, he would come in and fill in for Jim Kelly at that point. And they got beat down as usual, 52-17. And that was it. But I mean, their last Super Bowl had a little bit more of a closer look. I mean, they did have a lead at one point where they were up by a touchdown going into the halftime, and they were shut out the rest of the way, where the Cowboys shut them out 24-0 in the second half. And that's where you got to look at it. This concerns with the Buffalo Bills. Stephon Diggs, as I just mentioned, he caused most touchdowns this season with 11, and he has the second most yards of scrimmage with 1,426. Now, the Bengals, they do have a good duel of defensive ends, Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard, to help them get to Allen additional rushers. So another piece of the puzzle is Allen's legs, which can break a defense. Hubbard takes one false step. It would be logical for the Bengals to try and simultaneously take away Allen's rushing along with the ball and utilize 7 or 8 players in coverage, which would be far different than what the Bills saw last week. So I'm going to say that's going to be a big key in this game. I'll definitely admit for this game, whoever can keep their quarterback inside the pocket, because I tell you what, if it comes down to like a pocket passing game, I think Joe Burrow will have Josh Allen's number in this game. But when you also look at it too, Cincinnati Bengals right now as a team, I mean, this year they've been doing a pretty good job defensively in their own right here. I mean, they're 6th in the league in points allowed with 322, 16th in total defense at 5,371 yards. But they do a good job in stopping the run. They're 7th in the league, only allowing 1,706 yards with 12 touchdowns right there. So defensively, these teams are pretty much matched up pretty solid, if you ask me. And I will say this right now. I mean, the Bills will have 40 sacks on the season because the Cincinnati Bengals, they've gotten to the quarterback 30 times. So I'm gonna say this right there. I'm gonna go ahead and give the edge to the Buffalo Bills, simply because they're at home and they're playing off the emotions of Damar Hamlin. But don't think the Bengals ain't got something to play for too, because they almost had to be forced into position a week ago where it could have been a coin flip if they had not won that final Week 18 matchup versus Ravens. If the Ravens would have won that game, that could have been either in Cincinnati or Baltimore doing a coin flip. I was not impressed by what we saw from either teams last week. But I tell you what, I do feel like right now the Buffalo Bills, they could get a little bit more creatively and get Josh Allen to play a little bit more disciplined football. So give me the Buffalo Bills in this one. It's going to be a tight one. I'm going to go 28-21. And that's going to do it for this prediction here. The second game, the second round of this weekend, this will be the first game of Sunday, the Bills hosting the Bengals. I'm Charles Prodigy Richey. Once again, you can follow me on Twitter at MassSteelCJR and on Instagram at MassSteelNation. And up next, we'll be having the Dallas Cowboys visiting the San Francisco 49ers preview. That will be in the next hour here. Charles Prodigy Richey signing off. Thank you for watching the Mass Steel podcast with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Mass Steel podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.